What's up, everyone? Over the holidays here, I'm just goofing around and decided to play some Scourge of War Chancellorsville, which is an older game from the Scourge of War series before Scourge of War Waterloo came out. Um, and though most of my channel has been dedicated to Scourge of War Waterloo, uh, my love of history and wargaming really begins with the American Civil War, and my father. From a very young age, my father introduced me to history, to wargaming, um, and he, being from the East Coast in the United States, he took me to many of the Civil War battlefields when I was a kid. We went to Gettysburg, Antietam, Harper's Ferry, Manassas, Chancellorsville, Fredericksburg, the Wilderness, Spotsylvania, Cold Harbor, a whole bunch of them. Just about every major battle on the East Coast we've been to. And he also introduced me to wargaming at a very young age. From the 1970s he was into board wargaming with the a lot of the old SPI games like Terrible Swift Sword and A Gleam of Bayonets and Bloody April. I can remember a whole bunch of them. uh, I can remember for months, maybe years on end, seeing campaigns for North Africa mounted on his wall. So he was really into it, and so he got me into it. And I think the first war game we ever played was actually the SPI game Wellington's Victory. I don't think we got very far into it because both armies were defeated soundly that day by a very large orange tabby cat who decided to get up on the table and knock all the pieces off the board. Uh, yeah, that Battle of Waterloo ended very quickly. But we also played uh, Terrible Swift Sword. I think was the first game I really ever played with him, which was the Battle of Gettysburg, and that was probably the first time I had ever played a war game. And he trounced me, obviously, because that was the first time I had ever played. I had no idea what I was doing, but it sparked my interest, and I've been into it ever since. And I continued playing board war games for a long time, and then we discovered the John Tiller Talonsoft games from a very long time ago, where he made basically board war games on a computer. Uh, and I had all of those. I had all the Civil War ones, all the Napoleonic ones, um, and then it switched companies and got redesigned a little bit and became they were released under HPS Simulations. I have all of those too, and I guess in around 2000. I don't know, 2011, 2012 is when I first discovered Scourge of War. Uh, and yeah, that's pretty much been my favorite series ever since, as far as Civil War and Napoleonic war games go. Um, so yeah, like I said, I have some time over the holidays, and this is not like a tutorial video like I do with Scourge of War Waterloo. I was just playing this for fun and decided to record it. So anyway, this is the new redo here we have with the Last of the Mohicans soundtrack, and we're going to be playing Juggernaut, Jackson's finale, which was Jackson's attack on the 11th Corps after he marched his 30,000 man corps around the right flank of Hooker's army and set himself up squarely across the flank of the 11th Corps, who really had no idea they were out there. Because of the way the march started, the march started by heading southwards and then turned right and out of the view of the Federal Army. Then they proceeded north and around the Union flank. So to the Union observers at near Chancellorsville and I guess that was Hazel Grove, though you could really see it. Um, the march of Jackson's men looked like a retreat because they were heading southwards before they turned right. So Hooker, who was kind of under the impression that he was just going to set up a defensive formation at Chancellorsville behind a whole bunch of earthworks and force Lee to attack him in his defendable position, like Lee had forced Burnside to attack his defended position at Fredericksburg. However, Lee was not Burnside and was one of those great military generals who was willing to take audacious risks and gamble, take huge gambles, banking on a big outcome. And he was a bold general who could think outside the box. And basically, what happened when Hooker moved up the Rappahannock River and outflanked Lee's defenses at Fredericksburg and came down and occupied Chancellorsville. Hooker's thought was that being trapped between two wings of the Federal Army, Hooker's set up at Chancellorsville and Sedgwick at Fredericksburg, that Lee would be compelled to simply withdraw to the North Anna River, um, and Hooker would be one step closer to Richmond. However, Lee rarely ever did what Union generals thought he was going to do, while Union generals always seemed to do exactly what Lee thought they were going to do. So rather than withdraw, instead Lee divided his army, sending most of Jackson's corps uh, and a couple of divisions from, I think, two divisions from Longstreet's corps uh, westward towards Chancellorsville. Longstreet himself was not present at this battle. I think he was detached with two of his own divisions and was further south somewhere, by Richmond or something. So Lee's army was smaller than it was at Fredericksburg. He basically had Jackson's corps and half of Longstreet's corps. This is before Gettysburg, so before Lee had reorganized his army into three corps, and it was still at this time it was still operating in a left wing and a right wing configuration, which I thought was a better organization for that particular army because I think Longstreet and Jackson complemented each other. One was very audacious and very aggressive, um, while the other was more cautious and more defensive minded. Not that Longstreet couldn't launch formidable attacks when necessary, and not that Jackson uh, couldn't put up a strong defense when he needed to. Second Manassas was a good example of role reversals there, as it was Longstreet, Jackson's corps, who occupied the railroad tracks and were holding out against Pope's army, and it was Longstreet who launched the flank attack, sending his entire corps into uh, Pope's left flank on the second day and basically routing his whole army. Um, so, regardless of the role reversals, I think the two operated well together. Um, Obviously, everything changed when Jackson died, and Lee reorganized his army into a three corps setup instead of the two wing it had setup it had formerly been. Um, but anyway, back to what happened was, yeah. So anyway, Lee divided his army and sent most of Jackson's corps and what he had of Longstreet's corps to intercept the Federals that were marching east from Chancellorsville on the Turnpike and the Plank Road. Um, and he left most of General Early's division to basically stall Sedgwick at Fredericksburg. And in the first day, they engaged around Zion Church along the Turnpike and the Orange Plank Road. Um, Hooker basically wanted to fight a defensive battle. He withdrew all his troops back to a kind of a semicircle formation around Chancellorsville, with his left flank anchored on the river, uh, on the Rappahannock, and his right flank basically out in the air with the 11th Corps. And during the night of May 1st and May 2nd, Jackson and Lee had their famous meeting where Jackson suggested that he take his entire corps and march around the Union right flank when some of the Confederate cavalry had basically been patrolling and discovered that the 11th Corps flank was basically in the air. Um, so this must have been an enormous risk for Lee, because he was basically agreeing to Jackson taking 30,000 men, his entire corps, on an all-day march around the Union right flank, leaving him with just 2 divisions, about 12,000 men, uh, of Longstreet's corps under Lee's direct command, to face Hooker's 80,000, 70,000 men, whatever it is he had at Chancellorsville. All he had to do was basically come forward, and that would have been it. He would have wiped Lee's 2 divisions out, had he decided to do so. But Lee was one to take risks, and he also had an uncanny ability to understand what Union generals were going to do, and really take a measure of what kind of character they were. And I think he certainly felt secure enough that Joe Hooker was going to sit there, and while Jackson did this. So it took basically all day. He left early morning, I think, 6, 7 a.m., marched all day through the wilderness, and finally got his line set up around 5 p.m. Astride the turnpikes on the right flank of the 11th Corps, and that's where our story begins here. So we're going to be covering the attack here of Jackson's Corps, and the length of play is 2 hours, or player's option. I'm not really sure what that means. It's been a long time since I've played Scourge of War Gettysburg, so like I said, I'm just playing this for fun. I'm not trying to like show you guys anything really. It's just purely for entertainment. And we are Jackson, and the date is May 2nd, 1863, obviously 5:30 p.m. in Northern Virginia. And let's scroll down here a little bit. And okay, so the situation is, after your extraordinary feat of moving 30,000 men in front of and around the Union defenses, the enemy's right flank is now available for destruction. It is late and daylight will diminish soon, so push your Juggernaut without delay. Juggernaut, a massive, relentless force that crushes whatever is in its path. Well, that was certainly Jackson's Corps on this day, wasn't it? Okay, this must be what they were talking about the length of play. What if option? What if Jackson did not hesitate to regroup, and instead continued his Juggernaut further east to Chancellorsville, overrunning the western breastworks and exposing the rear of the Union defenses? I'm not really sure if that was really an option. It was pretty much dark out by the time this attack kind of came to an end, and Rhodes' division and Colston's division were pretty much all mixed up in the darkness. So really the only fresh force available was A.P. Hill's light division, which would have been behind Colston and Rhodes' divisions. And I'm not really sure he could have brought them up in any kind of reasonable time to really continue the attack. I think, it would have been a night attack, which was a very rare thing in the Civil War. So I don't know, we'll have to see what happens here. All right, so scroll down a little bit more here. And the mission is the Juggernaut. Direct the Juggernaut. We need 5,000 points for a major victory. And there are 2 objectives in this scenario. However, they're kind of mislabeled on the map. They don't say they're worth any points, but I went for them anyway. And they're actually waypoint objectives. You hold them for a few minutes, and they're actually worth a lot of points. All right, let's get this thing running here. Alrighty, so here we are. I have thinned out the woods a little bit, just so you can see what's going on, because at 100% trees you can't see anything. All right, here comes our courier. All right, and it says, General Jackson, we have recently received excellent reports that General Hooker has been influenced by his generals into thinking our army is on the run. The advantage is indeed ours. Once your forces are in position, move upon the enemy's flank. He is weakened by poor positioning and false intelligence. As your attack moves to the enemy's center, I will attack from the south. Keep me informed of your forward movements, since nightfall may become an issue with our planned reunion of forces. Respectfully, General Robert E. Lee. You can notice it says 5:30 a.m. May 3rd. The date's wrong. It's May 2nd. Uh, okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is take charge of my generals so that they don't go wandering off. Except for Rhodes, whose division is in front. I'm going to leave him off take charge for now. As you can see, the objective says it's not worth any points, but that seems to be what we're supposed to go for. And I will have Rhodes' division begin moving forward. I put him on all-out attack, and I'm putting them in line hold form so that they stay in line. And I'll move the other divisions forward later on. And like I said, I thinned out the woods quite a bit here so that you guys could see what's going on, because when I tried to play the scenario and record it, I realized very quickly that you really couldn't see much of what was going on under all the trees. So I left just enough trees so you know it's woods, but thinned them out enough so that you could see the troops and moving through them and so forth. So we have about 27,000 men almost. And this is the Bugles and Flags toolbar down here. For all practical purposes, it's the Civil War equivalent of the Grog toolbar. It's based off the Grog toolbar. It has a lot of the same abilities as the Grog toolbar. It has some differences too, but for the most part, it's got the three most important things, which is take command of all subordinates, take charge off all subordinates, as well as take command of all leaders. And it also reconfigures itself in the same way as the Grog toolbar. I don't know it as well as I know the Grog toolbar, so I may not know every single thing it can do. I haven't really used it that much because it came out long after Scourge of War Gettysburg was kind of over, and Scourge of War Waterloo was what I was playing. Nevertheless, I recognize a lot of the commonalities between this and the Grog toolbar. So I'm advancing my lead division here, and army organization especially on the Confederate side, was very different than what we see in say Scourge of War Waterloo. This is just a division. All these troops. It's just one division. This would have been like a corps if this was a Napoleonic organization. There's something like 5 brigades in this division, which is just a huge number of troops for one division. So this entire corps is something like 30,000 men. Now, just from history, I know the Yankees are out here somewhere, at least some of them. I know some of the 11th Corps was kind of disposed in the woods here. They had sort of set up some small amount of troops in the woods facing west along the turnpike in case of a possible attack, but I don't think they believed it any more than their generals did. And it's really not a lot in here. But I'm assuming I'm going to come upon them pretty quickly. I know it was only about a mile between where Jackson set up his forces and where some of the Union troops were. So I'm starting to bring some of my guns up, just to see if just to set up some artillery and kind of start moving it forward for when we encounter the enemy. You can see this is just a very long line of troops moving forward here. Like I said, this is a lot of troops to make up one division compared to what we're used to calling a division in Scourge of War Waterloo. But the Confederate Army always had big organizations, especially at the brigade level. Brigades tended to have a lot of regiments in them. Divisions tended to have a lot of brigades in them. And corps, at least at the beginning of the war, even corps seemed to have a lot of divisions in them. I think Longstreet's corps was probably like 4 divisions or 5 divisions, and Jackson's was at least 3. I think Longstreet's corps was slightly larger than Jackson's corps. The Federal Army was more closely organized in Napoleonic terms. They tended to have smaller brigades and smaller divisions, but they had more corps. Whereas the Confederate Army in this battle has 2 corps, Jackson's and half of Longstreet's, really a corps and a half. The Federal Army had a whole bunch of corps. They had the 11th, the 2nd, the 5th, the 6th over at Fredericksburg. The 1st Corps was kind of in limbo between Fredericksburg and Chancellorsville. So the Union had smaller organizations, but more of them. So we're just advancing through the woods here in line. And like I said, I've really thinned out the trees so you guys can see what's happening here. Otherwise, it would just be endless trees and you would never see anything. I would have to go down to ground level all the time for you guys to see what was going on. And that would only be on a very small scale if I had to do that. So I kind of always like to show you guys kind of the big picture of what's going on. So yeah, I thinned out the trees to like 30% of what they really are. Like I said, it's enough for you to know that yes, we're in heavy woods, but I thinned them out enough so you can see what was going on. So no sign of the enemy so far. And we're just still moving forward here. That's O'Neill's brigade. I think we have Dole's brigade over here. I think we have like 5 brigades in this 1st division here. And I'm just being careful to bring the guns up behind the infantry, so in case we encounter the enemy, the guns don't go and get turned around because they're not unlimbered and they are advancing. Oh, I see something out there. What do we got? Right there, I thought I saw something. There is definitely a gun there. Oh, well, thought I saw it. So these troops are level 5 seasoned. That's a pretty high troop quality for the American Civil War. American Civil War troops were generally of lower troop quality than troops in the Napoleonic Wars. So you're not going to be seeing many level 6 or level 7 troops in this battle. You will probably be seeing a lot lower troop qualities than you're used to seeing in the Napoleonic Wars. Because this is basically a civilian army. So I'm just starting to inch everything forward here. I definitely know there's enemy troops out there now. Alright, I see a battery. Let's see if we can advance this line and keep them out of the range of canister fire. One thing you can't do in Scourge of War Gettysburg is you don't right-click to actually click on locations to move your troops. You left-click and basically put an arrow down, and you can't hold it to turn the facing. You actually have to just point it, release, and then use the wheel left and wheel right buttons down here to actually adjust your facing. So a little different than what we do with Scourge of War Waterloo, but still the same basic idea. So I'm trying to get my guns into position so that they'll unlimber and open up on this battery. So far I don't see any infantry, only artillery, so I'm trying to get my batteries close enough where they'll start opening up on the guns while we bring the infantry up. And some of my forces have halted while we deal with this. I can't quite see the guns anymore, but I hear them. There they are. And they are opening fire. And we have some infantry moving in on them. And if this one regiment gets close enough, we might as well just charge them and get them out of there. So one of my lines has opened up on the guns. There's the charge button. So we're just going to charge these guns and get them out of there. And that must be the sound of the rebel yell as they charge the guns. Now I'm mashing the charge button here as I normally do because I don't want them to stop and reform for every gun they take. But apparently that in this game that seems to make the audio clip of the rebel yell kind of loop and loop and loop and loop all over itself. So you end up with a whole bunch of rebel yells overlapping each other. So we've gotten the guns. Yeah, it's very tough finding your commanders in all these woods, even though I've got them thinned out quite a bit. It can still be tough to find them. I'm used to the open fields of Waterloo and Ligny and so forth, where there aren't this many trees around. So I can see 2 Union regiments now. And this one is lying down to avoid the cannon fire of the guns we just captured. And I still have most of my troops under AI control right now because it was basically a divisional order I issued at the beginning. But now I'm going to start taking command of them and getting them into some semblance of order as they're starting to get kind of mixed up. So what I'm doing is looking for brigade commanders and just taking command of their brigades and try to move them towards the enemy. We're firing canister right into this unit's flank. Here's our guns right here that we just captured. You can see some of our troops still moving. So we found Colquitt's brigade here. And I'm just going to start moving a lot of them up. And we also have Ramser's brigade. Yeah, there's a lot of brigades in this division, so I'm going to have to start finding the leaders, taking command of them, and starting to make sense of all this so we can start moving forward, because it's under AI control here. It's quickly getting all messed up. And, you know, I want to advance in a more orderly fashion. So one regiment has withdrawn. I think they took enough of that canister to their flank. And we have something else going on over here. Again, a very small regiment, and we have a lot of troops coming on, so I don't expect them to hold for long. We see a couple of more regiments marching up. Like I said, this area was lightly held by the 11th Corps, but I don't think they were prepared for an attack of this scale. So I think we're going to have a very large superiority of numbers here as we push forward. I just have to get a hold of my brigade commanders and start getting my units into shape and into position so that they're not wandering off all over the place. So O'Neill's brigade is engaged right now. They're doing pretty good. And I'm going to take this unit, send them out on the flank so that they can bring their fire against this rather small regiment. And I'm going to start spreading my guns out. Right now they're all kind of on the central road there. And I'm going to start dividing my batteries out a little more evenly along the line so that when we emerge from the woods, I'll be able to set up a gun line and not have to send my guns to all different parts of the line. So I'm going to do that, start doing that now. With the addition of those 3 captured guns there, we have a decent amount of guns now. So another 11th Corps regiment is withdrawing. They did, however, succeed in slowing us down briefly, as we had to deploy and fight them. So I'm going to take command of O'Neill's brigade and move him up in double line. The reason I'm using double line is, like I said, these brigades are just huge. So if I use just a straight line, they're really going to cover a rather enormous front, and I think it'll just be easier to control them with the double line formation. And then if they engage, I can take the 2 lines from behind and do whatever I want with them. But I think it's a more compact approach. And there's a lot less charging in the Civil War Scourge of Wars than there is in, you know, the Scourge of War Waterloo, because obviously the small arms range of the rifle musket was much longer than the smoothbore musket. So in Scourge of War Waterloo, the maximum range of the musket is about 150 yards. Here we have rifled muskets, uh, which basically means the barrels were rifled. They fired a conical projectile called a mini ball that spun when it left the muzzle, which stabilized its trajectory and gave it much greater range. So I'm not exactly sure what the maximum range of the rifled musket is in this game, but it's damn sure a lot more than 150 yards. Um, yeah, I think it might be like 350, 400 yards, something like that. Um, in the woods like this, it's not quite so much because you just don't have the visibility. But when we get out in the open, uh, there's definitely a noticeably bigger engage distance in this game than in Scourge of War Waterloo. So that makes charging a lot harder because you come under fire. Um, you come under fire much earlier, so you're going to lose a lot more men. Which is why you don't really see me using a lot of, or any really, column by division or assault columns like I do in Scourge of War Waterloo, because it's just a lot harder to close to that type of range in this game. It's a little easier in the woods because of visibility issues, but charging is also a lot slower in the woods because you're not in open ground, and so when you actually charge, it takes longer. So basically, what I'm doing is just using a lot of line infantry to bring. These are big rebel units here that we have, and I'm trying to hit them in the front and the flanks on all sides so that they break and run pretty quickly. The troops of the 11th Corps were not known for their high troop quality. They were basically runners. They were routed here at Chancellorsville. They were routed at Gettysburg. They were definitely the track stars of the Union Army. And there they go. Alright, so we got Dole's Brigade, and they're deployed in line right now. But like I said, I'm going to start switching to double line to make these formations a little more compact and easier to handle, because there is a lot of troops here. All right, so we have O'Neill's brigade on the left and Dole's brigade on the right here, and then we have even further out to the right we have who was that? Ramser's brigade and Colquitt's brigade. And then behind O'Neill's brigade somewhere we have Iverson's brigade. So we have 5 brigades that we're dealing with just this first division here. So I mean, just the first division of Jackson's Corps is just freaking huge, and behind this is Rhodes' division. Behind that we have Colston's division, and then behind that we have A.P. Hill's light division, which is something of a misnomer. They weren't really light. They were, really the heavy hitters of Jackson's Corps. So yeah, we have a lot of troops under our command, and trying to navigate them through these woods, even with the trees thinned out like this, so you guys can see what's going on, is a bit more challenging than the kind of maneuvering I usually do in Scourge of War Waterloo, which is mostly over open ground in nice little compact French formations of column by division, and Napoleonic warfare just seemed to be a little more organized than American Civil War warfare, which, I mean, it's understandable. The terrain was very different. A lot of America at this time was very wooded, especially down south here in like Virginia and so forth. These were still very rural times. So these are the batteries we captured. And so they don't have a commander. So I have to see who their commander would be and attach them. And I think it's this battery moving forward here. So we're just clicking on all these batteries and just attaching them to whoever command they have been placed under, and I guess that's Reese's battery here. All right, so we got Colquitt's brigade in double line, so we're going to advance Ramser's brigade and put him in double line and just start getting the advance going here. We let those two regiments really slow us down, and we do have to. The good thing about the fact that those objectives are waypoint objectives is that, again, waypoint objectives, you hold them for a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever the time is you're supposed to hold them for, and then you get a certain amount of points for them, and then they disappear. So in a lot of ways, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get to waypoint objectives, because whether you get to them early or whether you get to them later, you're only going to get a set amount of points for them. So in that way, it kind of gives you more time. You don't have to kind of rush forward as fast as you can to get to the objective. And with hold objectives, you obviously want to get to them as fast as you can so you can extract the most amount of points from them. But with waypoint objectives, you pretty much just have to get to them to get the points, but it doesn't necessarily matter when you get to them. So I'm thinking I'm going to get Colston's division going and kind of start getting him moving forward behind Rhodes' division. And I'm looking to see where I want to place him. So right around there, I guess. No, I don't think I took everybody off take charge. That's why nobody's moving. So let's do this again. Now everybody's moving. Yeah, but I don't think I want to place them in double line. I think I want to place them in line. But now I don't like their facing, so we have to do it all over again. And this is just me kind of learning the toolbar, and there we go. That's better. So it's pretty much the same as the Grog toolbar, but it's just a different layout. So just trying to get used to everything here. All right, so we have O'Neill's brigade up in double line, so we can start advancing him. And if it seems like this advance is kind of slow and taking some time, bear in mind this is not Scourge of War Waterloo, where I have played and defeated and found the best ways to beat every scenario in the game, and I've really put a lot of time into it. I haven't played Scourge of War Chancellorsville in many years, and certainly the last time I played this game, I didn't have anywhere near the understanding of the Scourge of War's game mechanics that I do now. In fact, most of my understanding and breaking down of the Scourge of War game mechanics really didn't start to happen until Scourge of War Waterloo. I played this game for many years, but never really had the understanding of the game mechanics that I do now until Scourge of War Waterloo. Don't ask me why. I guess something about that game just inspired me to look into how the game works more so than these games did. Um, you know, I understood the basics of the game. I'm sure I certainly played this scenario before, because I've had this game for many years, but I don't remember it too well. I certainly couldn't tell you what's the absolute best way to beat it, because if I've played the scenario before, this is probably like the second time I've ever played it. So, in a lot of ways, you're seeing me play the scenario sort of blind in terms of, you know, I don't really know the absolute best way. I'm kind of going by instinct, by what I know of the game mechanics, and what I know of the game mechanics always tells me to advance in the most organized way I possibly can, um, and to keep my troops, you know, well in hand, so to speak. So while it may seem like my advance is somewhat slow and ponderous, really what I'm trying to do is just keep my lines as organized as possible, as we approach the end of the woods here and come out into the clearing. I see some Yankee generals up here and a Yankee supply wagon, so I know there must be some troops up in here somewhere, and here comes a regiment. And again, while this is basically the same idea as the Grog toolbar, you know, the layout is a little different, so I'm looking for buttons more. You know, I don't know the location of everything just on without even thinking about it like I do with the Scourge of War Waterloo Grog toolbar. So we got at least a Yankee brigade right here. No doubt about it, this is definitely a whole brigade. So we're going to get our first real combat here. And Dole's brigade is kind of perfectly positioned to kind of move on to their flank. And I'm trying to double quick these boys into position. Alright, so we got our first real combat here now. This is definitely brigade versus brigade. And our boys are opening fire. And I'm pulling this unit back here, this double line rear unit, getting them further back. So the Yankee brigade is moving out to their left now to intercept Dole's brigade that I'm moving forward to protect their flank. And I'm going to see if I can charge these guys in the rear. So I like how the toolbar actually says melee down here. That's pretty cool. And removes all the commands. Alright, so they're charging. And it looks like at first they're not getting the best of it, but now they are. And they send the Yankees running. Good job, boys. So some of their brigade is already breaking. That's going to allow me to send this left unit out on the flank to see if we can collapse the rest of these. And wheel to face the enemy, boys. Move this regiment to this little gap here and see if they can get some fire going. Now, even though the regiment's line is obviously much bigger than that little gap, like I've said before, the game considers the flags to be the unit's true location. So as long as I can get the flag into that gap, that should be good enough to get them engaged. So we have another Union brigade moving out on our left now, as we are encountering more and more of the enemy here. And I have 2 regiments to my left here that I can use to deal with them, temporarily at least. Looking to see where Rhodes' division is. And they're advancing. I don't know what that thing is blowing up there. It looks like a pile of logs or a barrel or something. All right, so here's Iverson's brigade, and I'm going to pull them up behind O'Neill's brigade. So, yeah, we have another whole Yankee brigade out here that we're going to have to face with. We're going to have to deal with them. Nothing appears to really be happening on the right. So we're going to advance Colquitt's brigade. And then we have Ramser's brigade out here on the right. So many brigades in this division. Let's see how our little battle is going against this Yankee brigade here. Hit the wrong button there. I wasn't sure what that button was. I'm just trying to turn my lines. You can see one unit moving out on the our left there, probably trying to outflank us. See if we can shift this unit over to the left to protect our flank. And the Yankees are breaking and running. You can see we're not too far away from the edge of the woods now. We have to break this last Yankee brigade on our left here, and then I think our way open will be clear. And the real problem with this attack is that it was launched so late in the day, and so Jackson really didn't get a chance to kind of follow up the attack, the way he wanted to, because it was so late in the day that darkness fell before he could really accomplish what it is he wanted to accomplish. I think he wanted to, basically completely roll up the federal right flank and cut them off from their paths of retreat and overrun Chancellorsville, so to speak. But there just wasn't enough time left in the day to really do that. And the objectives kind of reflect that. You'll see that Chancellorsville is over here, while the 2 objectives were further to the west. All right, Wilderness Tavern and Dowdall's Tavern, basically, are the objectives. So as we advance here, we're going to also start bringing Colston's division up to behind the division we have engaged so far. Let's see how the attack is going on the left here. Are any Yankees left over here? And they're breaking and running. There's one regiment here, but we got our regiment in position, so we're actually going to send these guys out on the flank. Obviously, flank fire tends to make units break and run faster than regular fire does. If you can get a unit out on the flank, it's always good to do so. And one thing we have here is an abundance of troops. Almost too many troops in some ways. It's in these woods. It's tough to coordinate. You know, all 5 of these brigades and keep the advance kind of orderly. So let's bring Iverson's brigade up a little further while O'Neill's brigade is engaged, just to have them close by. We've got Colquitt's and Ramser's brigades moving up on the right. No sign of the enemy on their side of things. Well, it looks like I want to slip Ramser further out to the right, just to increase my front. And like I said, it's tough to see everything, you know, in these trees. I'm like looking for the little arrow. Okay, there it is. It's like hidden amongst all these trees. All right. So now this unit is turned to face the unit we sent out on its flank, which opens up their other flank. So let's advance this unit. And they have another regiment moving up here. But they're starting to pull back, so I'm going to advance. And there they go. Boy, these 11th Corps troops are certainly living up to their reputation. And I don't think this other unit is going to stand there for very long either. They look like they're getting ready to break. These are small regiments, though. And there they go. That looks like the last unit from that brigade. So maybe we can start getting O'Neill's brigade in order here. And again, I think I'm looking for Colquitt here. I'm looking for the leader, and I don't know where he is. And I think he's hidden behind a tree here. There he is. There he is. Yep, hidden behind a tree. I'm not used to dealing with all these trees. There's no trees in Scourge of War Waterloo. Or at least not a lot of them. So we're starting to bring some semblance of order here to this advance. We have O'Neill and Iverson on the left. We have Doles in the center, and we have Colquitt and Ramser on the right. And what we have to do is start bringing our artillery up, which is kind of lagging behind because artillery does very little good in these woods. But I want to bring them up for when we get out of the woods. I think they'll do much more good then, so I can't let them fall too far behind. And this is Colston's division moving into position behind Rhodes' division. I still haven't moved AP Hill's division. I don't really think AP Hill's division really had much going on in this particular attack. I think they were the last line, and I think they basically their job was just to come forward after this attack and be ready to resume the attack the next morning. And sometime at night, I think AP Hill went and got himself wounded along with Jackson, and I think it's actually Harry Heath who takes over command of Hill's division while Hill is wounded. And when Hill becomes a corps commander after this battle, I think Heath is in command of one of his divisions. I think it's the leading division at Gettysburg, actually. So there's still a tiny little Union skirmish line out there. But if they're in a broken formation like that, I have to believe that they're not in the best of shape and probably getting ready to run. And they took off very quickly. So if we can get out of these damn woods and get ourselves set up here, we can finally see what we're really up against. So I'm trying to move O'Neill's brigade forward now. I hear some guns opening up. I hope those are our guns. Yep. I do have a battery in position, and they're open firing on what's left of those Yankees. Let them have it, boys. There's definitely a small Yankee skirmish line up there. So let's, we got Dole's brigade moving up to meet them. And at this point, I'm just, I see the end of the woods on the horizon there. And I'm just trying to get out of these woods as quickly as possible so that I can finally see what we're really up against here. So we're about 45 minutes into the scenario here. I still haven't gotten out of the woods. And I still can't even see the objective. So we definitely have to get a move on. I have to get out of these woods. It's really slowing me down. And now it looks like I'm starting to revert to line formation for a lot of these brigades, probably to bring their, assumingly to bring their full firepower to bear once they make it out of these woods here. And we'll bring up Iverson, who's basically acting as the reserve for O'Neill's brigade at this point. So there's these Yankees. That's definitely me hitting the wrong button. Again, I am nowhere near as familiar with the layout of this toolbar as I am the Grog toolbar, so you'll see me hit some wrong buttons and stuff. Like I said, this is not me trying to show you guys how to like win the scenario or anything. I'm just playing for fun here. And I just figured I'd record it, and on the hope that something interesting happens. And it's been slow going so far here, trying to get out of these damn woods. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the right that I've done on the left. On the left, I have O'Neill's brigade in line in the front with Iverson's brigade in double line in the reserve. And here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have Colquitt's brigade in front in line with Ramser's brigade in double line in reserve. And I think I'm going to advance Colston's brigade division, his whole our second line, with 8,000 men basically, and I'm going to move them up right behind Rhodes' division. And I still haven't brought AP Hill's division up. They're still sitting back there. But I mean, Rhodes' division, our leading division here, is just so freaking huge. You know, that I'm like, don't feel I really need anybody else yet. You know, I've got 5 brigades to work with here. That's a lot. And we really haven't seen much action yet. You know, this whole division should still be pretty fresh because we really, all we've seen is just very, very light Yankee resistance. We've only faced like 2 brigades so far. And they ran off pretty quickly in true 11th Corps fashion. So we have 1,071 points so far, or 1,086 now. So we still got a long way to go. We only got we still need like 4,000 more points. So, and we're 50 minutes into the scenario now, almost halfway through. So I'm like, at this point, I feel like I really need to get a move on here. I don't even see the objectives. I kind of see it off in the distance. This looks like one of the flags right here, but it's like, and here's the other one. So these are the 2 objectives. As you can see, they're still a way off. So I'm moving O'Neill's, who's now totally deployed in line formation, and I'm moving them forward, trying to get out of these woods. Got to get past this ditch right here. And we'll move Iverson up in double line right behind them. And we'll trying to bring everybody forward now. Move Dole's brigade a little bit out to the right just because O'Neill's brigade is taking up such a big front now. So we'll keep Dole's in double line, just because he's the only brigade that doesn't have another brigade in reserve. So we'll keep a few battalions of his in back to be basically his reserve. Oh, I see some more Yankees on the run. They're running towards us though. We'll move Ramser up behind in double line. He's the reserve. Start to bring the guns to the road here, where they can get better fields of fire as they come out of the woods. Yeah, and I still don't truly have an idea of what it is I'm facing yet because I can't really see it. I know the whole 11th Corps is basically out here, but all we've encountered so far is like 2 brigades, you know, probably both of the same division. So I think the 11th Corps has 3 divisions in it. If we've taken out one, there's probably 2 full divisions left. As you can see, some of them are not fully routed as they're coming back to face us here, but we're out of the woods now, so we're going to have much better fields of fire here. And we're going to advance the whole brigade here so we can really get close fire on these guys. And they're backing up already, I can see. This must have been a unit we previously engaged and forced them to retreat, because they're backing up awful quick. Granted, they have 3 regiments closing in on them. And there they go. And I'm getting the distinct feeling that they're just trying to slow us down. Not really trying to engage us heavily, but just force us to stop, force us to go online and engage them, and then they quickly withdraw. And then forcing us to get our units back into into organization. Here comes another one. All right, so I see a fence set up back here, and I see some guns back there. So that looks to me what we should be heading for. And we'll start advancing Iverson's brigade and get him to cross the ditch. Gotta get everybody across this ditch. And what I really want to do is get up in here, so I can start setting my cannon up. Set some guns up here. This looks like a good spot for some guns. I'll bring my biggest battery out up there. So the Yankees are just withdrawing ahead of us here. Some of them are trying to come back. I can definitely see a gun line out here now. Some more troops behind this fence. That definitely seems like the strong point. All right, so we are starting to emerge from the woods. You can hear some artillery opening up. Let's start to bring our guns forward so we can answer them. Now I'm bringing my guns a little far forward here, but with Dole's brigade over here on the left, I would think if there were enemy troops nearby, they would be able to see them. So I'm thinking that's a pretty safe spot to bring my guns forward. I'm just starting to look for, usable fields of fire once we get out of these cursed woods. Start bringing these guys forward. Just trying to advance everybody to make these units break. Alright, so that looks like that whole brigade is running now. So we need to start getting our men out of the woods. So I guess we're going to start bringing AP Hill forward now. I guess we'll get him moving up right behind Colston. That looks good. So Rhodes has 1,300 points, and since Rhodes' division is pretty much in the lead, that's probably an accurate reflection of how many points we totally have. So we're still way behind. About an hour left in the scenario, and we still have 4,000 points to go. We're going to bring O'Neill's brigade forward right behind this fence here. And we are finally emerging from the woods. And I will be back in a minute, guys. I'm heading to the fridge. Be right back. Alright guys, I am back, and I see things have developed quickly in the center here. However, we're in a good position here. We're already deployed, and these guys are all crisscrossed and messed up. And they're running. Bringing one of my rear units out here on the flank. So our right has not really encountered anybody, but I want to start bringing them forward. Bring Colquitt's brigade right up behind them and go back to double line. It doesn't appear like too much is going on the right. It appears that most of the action is going to be on the left to me. And we'll bring Ramsar up in support. And it looks like Rhodes' brigade is all set, or Rhodes' division is all set up in reserve back here, so we can start bringing them forward. Colston's division, actually. Yeah, there we go. So he's got about 8,000 men. He's completely unengaged so far. So we'll bring his whole division up kind of right behind the ditch here. And there they go. They're all moving. Bring a supply wagon up too. We are finally out of these woods, and we've got our guns up. I've got one battery on the left and one battery on the right, but I want to bring Reese's battery, that big battery, the one that has the 3 guns we captured at the beginning. So there we finally can see the objective, and it is right kind of in the stronghold of this pocket of Union guns over here. So that's going to be tough to take. They're behind a fence, which probably gives them the defensive terrain bonus, and looks like they have a lot of infantry out in the front with a good gun line behind it. So that's going to be a tough position to take. So the first thing I want to do is get our guns up so we can start softening that position up. So we have sent a lot of them streaming back, though. You can see that these are all routed units running through that position. So I would say we've taken out 1 division at least. And here is Reese's battery, that big battery, and that's who I want to get up front here. He's got a lot of guns, and yeah, I want to get him in the front. So we've got our battery on the right, and we've got our battery on the left, but I want to bring that big center battery up before we think about launching an attack. There's Jackson. So we have 1,353 points. We still need, 3,700 points for a major victory. So really hoping those objectives are worth a lot, because it's going to be tough to get that through combat. And this position does not look easy to take. And I'm thinking frontally, that's going to be even harder. I'm thinking about if we take O'Neill's brigade and kind of go around through these woods here, kind of in here, maybe we'll have a better chance of kind of breaking through. Because there's a lot of guns back there. There's a lot of infantry. Some of it's coming forward. So maybe this battery here can pound them with canister and run them all. Yep, there we go. Good old canister fire. Ooh, well, that didn't take long. And there's another objective kind of out here, kind of behind this house. And I think I'm going to detail Colquitt and Ramsar to capture that objective. I think it's back here somewhere. You can't even see it yet. See if we can get these guns a little further forward so they can start pounding the center of that line. And we'll bring Colquitt up in support of the guns. And right now what I'm really doing is just waiting to get that center battery up so that we can really start pouring. That's like 8 guns. That's a big battery. So once we get that battery up, that'll really help to start putting a lot of cannon fire. And I'm going to send Ramser's brigade out on the right and see if they can get an easier time advancing forward away from all that cannon fire against that second objective on the right. And we still have all of Rhodes' division coming forward. I mean, we really have a super amount of manpower here. Let's move AP Hill forward more. And Rhodes is hanging out there, back there with Iverson's brigade, who I think we can pretty much start bringing forward at this point. Here comes our big boys, our big center battery here, and this is what I wanted to get up, so we can really start softening this position up while we make our attack with O'Neill on the left here. And this ditch is slowing us down something awful as we try to get into position here. Luckily, our guns here are up on a hill, so they're kind of covering us as the last of our center battery comes into position here. We've got four guns up and 4 more on their way. And here comes our right battery. And to cover these guns here while they're unlimbering from these Yankee guns over here, I'm going to take the rightmost regiment here and move them out to shoot at the artillery and actually make those guys back off. I still don't know what, I can't see. I still don't know what is all over here, but I'm guessing that whole hill this is a nice hill here. I'm guessing this whole hill is kind of ridged with artillery on the top here, with infantry all behind this fence. So they're sending a brigade now out to their right. So my idea of getting around behind their flank is not going to work because they've anticipated it. They've got a whole brigade coming to intercept us now. So there's not going to be any easy way to do this. We have a fight on our hands. And this does not look like one of the... They're marching with the purpose here. This does not look like one of the brigades we've already engaged and forced to retreat. This looks like a fresh unit. As at least 3 regiments. So these guns are moving off just like I hoped they would at the approach of the infantry. And we have Ramser moving out on the right. There doesn't seem to be any enemies out here, so they might have a clear shot through. So we're going to try moving them up, see what they encounter when they get there. I can see the objective off in the distance here, and I'm hoping there's just a brigade or something covering it, and we can charge them and get them out of there. So I'm going to move this just to get them out of the tents and just so they have a good field of fire at this part of the line. So now I can see, yep, exactly what I was thinking. This whole fence line is ringed with infantry and guns pretty much covering the whole hill. So this is going to be a fight. So now some of these Yankee guns are actually close enough that they're hitting this unit with canister. And I'm trying to send this unit out on the flank, but this whole brigade now has kind of blocked that whole idea, and I'm going to have to let it go and just kind of we're going to have to fight them for real. The one thing we got going for us though is these are 11th Corps troops. You know, they're still not great quality troops, and we can probably shoot them out of there fairly quickly. So now we're shooting canister into this unit as it approaches. And I'm really trying hard to get this unit out on the flank here. So this unit withdrew. Luckily, it seems that it's only one gun shooting canister at us. It's just this one gun up here. So even though it's canister fire, because it's just one gun, you know, they're not really taking a huge toll on us. But if we stay here, it'll start to hurt us. Luckily, that gun also seems to have shifted position a little bit. You can see they've now deployed a regiment out here to refuse their flank. So they really did a good job in anticipating what I was going to do. It seemed, you know, this was like an open invitation to kind of come around their rear through here, and they seem to recognize that. So I'm bringing Iverson's brigade up in double line from behind them, because I realize now I've got a fight on my hands, and I now have to, instead of going around this position, I pretty much have to go kind of, just try and go right through it. So yeah, I'm going to need both brigades to do that, because O'Neill is probably going to get pounded on by this artillery as he moves forward, and I'm trying to do that right now. And I'm holding my center back right now because I want that big battery to do its dirty work. Just really soften this center up. I got a lot of guns up now. I got 8 guns in the center, and I got these 4 or 5 guns on the right here, all pointing towards the center position. So here we got Rhodes Division right behind if we need them. I'm sorry, Colston's division. Rhodes is in front. I always get them confused. Yes, Colston is, and we'll start bringing his whole division up. And again, I just want them to move forward in a straight line, so all I'm using is just a division commander and assigning the entire division to move up in line. All right, so a lot of these troops have backed off, have run off now. If we can, we're a little disorganized here as we're, you know, moving into position. But right now, we have a good shot of moving in and taking all these guns. I knew this was going to happen. We're going to get hit with a lot of canister fire as we approach here. So we're starting to shoot these guys in the flank, and they're backing up. But this artillery back here is about to really start pulverizing us. And this is where I learned one other thing about this toolbar. In Scourge of War Waterloo, you can use the charge button even if all your units are under take charge, as I've mentioned many times. However, in this game, you can't. If you want to charge from the brigade, you have the entire brigade charge and use the brigade commander to order them to charge. They all have to be off-take charge to make that happen. And I'm really trying to get them out of there, get them to charge and get some of these units out of here. Because I just don't want to stand it here and take all this canister fire from these guns and get this brigade blown apart without them accomplishing anything. So we're charging here with just one unit so far, and I'm trying to get these other units into position. Now they're all starting to charge. They're taking a lot of fire. We're going to hit this unit here, this rightmost unit, with these two regiments and see if we can run them off. If we can then bring the rest of the brigade forward to hit these guns. So here we go. Broken this regiment. They are moving off. So now we have a whole bunch of guns that we got to deal with. Now we can kind of charge into them here. I noticed they run a lot slower in this game than in Scourge of War Waterloo. Probably because they're running through this ditch here. This is a good defensive position here. And let's get Iverson's brigade close, because O'Neill's brigade is taking a beating. So we're going to need Iverson to come up as support and probably to occupy the objective. And they have, this whole hill is ringed with guns too. We're going to have to get them too to get the objective. So we're definitely going to need Iverson's brigade. So we're getting charged by another unit here. I don't know if they can stand this. They've already taken a lot of guns. Well, they're still going. These guys are heroes right here. Love it. So they've taken these guns. One gun is trying to get out of there. Can't say I blame him. And our guns are running, the guns we've captured are running off because they are way too close to this infantry. That's just, and they can't unlimber, so they're just going to run off. But better that than have them stay federal guns. Send this unit to try and take these guns. Luckily, all these troops are withdrawing, and that's making this a little bit easier. Now, thank God this is the 11th Corps and, not the 2nd Corps. This would be a whole different story if we were facing, Hancock's boys. And these guys are falling back. They've had enough. But I just want, this unit's probably going to get wrecked, but I just want them to get this line of guns if they can. Go, boys. These guys are all falling back now. These guys are facing the other direction. And these guys have had enough now. But they did capture a lot of guns. So we're going to need Iverson's brigade to come up and reinforce this position. All the while I've left Colquitt's brigade out here, and they're getting smashed by artillery. Lost 100 men already. Got to get them out of there. Yeah, those boys. 6 Georgia, they got wrecked. So we're going to move them up behind this house here towards the objective. Get them out of the range of that artillery. You notice it's starting to get darker too. It's almost 7 o'clock now. We still have not captured either of these objectives, and I don't think we're anywhere near what we need for a major victory. So we are really going to have to get a move on. So my main center gun battery is up now, and they're pounding a hole in the Union center there, and we're going to advance. Advance Dole's brigade and put him on all-out attack and see what he can do. All right, so we have cleared out a lot of this area. So we can use O'Neill's brigade to clear out the rest of these Yankees in here and see if we can slip Iverson in and get the objective, because there's not too much here now. Most of the 11th Corps is run off. So even though we had to basically we had to attack their right flank, we've now at this point turned it because they've pretty much withdrawn. And let's see if we can, our leftmost battery now doesn't have much of a target because we've overrun that position now. So let's see if we can bring some of our artillery up and use it to bomb away on these Yankees that refuse to give up here. And these guys are pretty much shot up. They're panicked, they're tired. So we're not going to get any charge out of them, but maybe we can get them to shoot at the artillery before they break and run and make those last couple of guns run off. Start shooting at those artillerymen. Get that gun to run off. We got this unit shooting at the flank of that regiment, so I don't expect them to last long. And here comes Dole's brigade. And Colston's division is filing into position. And yeah, it looks like we got a brigade and some guns, and they're also behind a fence. So we're gonna have to give them the cold steel here. And we're going to move right up on them and just try and charge them out of there. All right, so we did get that gun to run off. There's still some behind there. We've mostly cleared out their right flank now. So now we just have to push forward, break this last line of resistance here to capture the objective. And then Iverson, we can bring Iverson up to hold it for however long we need to hold it. We'll bring Doles up to attack the center now as we push forward on the right. Here comes our artillery. That will really help to even the odds. Oh, we got a melee going here. Oh, luckily these guys are in pretty good shape. Yeah, that was a pretty fresh unit that they charged. So we can see more units appearing here. So they haven't given up yet. So here we go. Let's see if we can overrun this position. Give them the rebel yell, boys. Take them. So we've crossed the fence. Let's see if we can hit these units. Looks like we're pushing forward. And we've taken some of the guns now. And they're giving ground. Now the guns are on our side. Sometimes good old brute force is the only way to do it. All right, bring the leader up, see if we can get enough men into position. Alright, so we've got our artillery up now. That changes things. And O'Neill's brigade is still hanging in there. We've got Dole's brigade coming up to help us out. I don't think we're going to get many more charges out of O'Neill's brigade. But it is 7 o'clock now. We have 30 minutes left in the scenario, so we really want to get our hands on this objective. And I'm trying to inch O'Neill's regiments forward so we can gain possession of it. So these 11th Corps troops are falling back. We still don't have possession of the objective, and I'm guessing because we don't have enough men in range of it. So I need to bring this unit back to get them over here. And we need to bring Ramser's brigade up here. This position is still hotly contested. So here they come. Alright, we now have the objective. So, it looks like we need to hold it for 2 minutes and 50 seconds. There's still some Federals back here behind our lines at this point now. We have to get them out of there. And we intercepted a message asking for help. More messages. Alright, so now we're intercepting couriers. So we've really pushed back this right flank, and if we can just keep inching forward here and shooting these guys down, we should be able to gain possession of the objective. And our artillery is ripping into these units with canister fire now, and that's exactly what I wanted, so that we can break them. You know, like I've always said, artillery is really, really powerful close up, and that's kind of what you want to do with it. Get it as close as you can without them getting shot up and run off. And these guys are charging too. Go get them, boys. So this Yankee unit looks like it's been routed. And another intercepted message asking for help. More intercepted messages. And alright, so we're just gonna put Colquitt on all-out attack and tell him to go for it. Just move your troops forward and attack. And that's pretty much all. I just gave them a point on the command map well past the objectives. I basically just said go for it. Do what you will. At this point, anything they're gonna do will help. So we have the left objective now, and it looks like we have to hold that for 2 minutes and 50 seconds as well. So some of these guns are starting to run off now. We've really turned their right flank. Their center is only held by a couple of regiments and a couple of guns at this point. And, well, we've lost this objective again, apparently. Probably because this unit just got routed. So we're going to have to bring another unit up to occupy it. And are these guys routing? No, they just retreated. Let's bring them up to help protect the guns. They're still in pretty good shape. But we have Ramsey's whole brigade coming up. And okay, we have the objective again. So I think that restarts the countdown. So again, we have to hold it for another 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Send these guys over to the left, help support that other unit. So yeah, countdown restarted, so we got about 2 minutes to go on that objective. Should have taken the other one by now, I think. Ah, there it is. So they've got one gun there still blasting away. So we can just move this unit forward and start shooting at them. They'll probably run off. These guys are still in pretty good shape. Let's see if we can drive off the last unit on the far right there. Start moving Iverson's brigade up. We still haven't really gotten involved because O'Neill's brigade did quite a good job. They sustained some casualties, but they held up pretty good. So we've pretty much got a good lock on this position now. We got Ramser's brigade coming up to really secure this position. And that unit that we're fighting has pretty much been thinned to a skirmish line at this point. You're running the wrong way, fellas. So, okay, 5 seconds left. Let's see what this objective is worth. We got 500 points right now. So it's 1,000 points. Okay. So if that one's 1,000 points, the other one must be 1,000 points. So that's 2,000 points total. So if we were able to get to 3,000 points on our own, and I haven't checked Jackson in a while, so I have no idea. So we have that objective now too. All right, we're close. We're at 4,700 points. So we need to inflict some 300 points more worth of casualties to get a major victory here. We're definitely close. And you see, this wasn't like super easy. We've inflicted 1,800 casualties, but we've taken 1,500 casualties. So this was a pretty close fight here. But we need to inflict about 300 points of casualties more to take this battle down here. Which we're shooting units in the back now, in the flank. On all this unit is surrounded on 3 sides, here, here, and here. So we're gonna get a lot out of them. And look at it, this is Colston's entire division coming forward. That is a whole division of get the hell out of here. And they're all starting to run now. And you get points when units rout, so we'll take that too. And this unit is now surrounded. And yeah, here comes Colston's entire division. This is basically this force is basically you guys are done. Get out of here. We're taking over. All right, so this regiment that was running towards us obviously surrendered. And we got another one running away. And it's really starting to get dark out at this point now. So I'm going to take Ramser's brigade now, the one that was basically not engaged at all, and I'm going to set up a line out in front of all my units that have been engaged and are weakened. And here's AP Hill has arrived at the edge of the woods here. And we'll bring him out into the clearing. And he'll be ready to take up the frontage to attack in the morning. Here's Rhodes. I really left him behind. Let's bring him up. All right. So with the darkness falling and the collapse of the almost all the Union regiments now, at this point I want to start stopping my forces from moving forward. And it's mostly Colston's division that's trying to push forward, and they're the ones I want to get under control. So I'm going to assign them to basically stop moving forward at this point. Because it looks like all the Yankees have run off, and need to click on Jackson to see if we've if we've passed the 5,000 point marker. We did make all those units route at the end, and that is worth a lot of points every time a unit routes. And we only needed 300 more points to get over the 5,000 point mark. And we've intercepted another message. I'm going to start pulling O'Neill's brigade back a little bit, and we'll send Iverson, who hasn't really been engaged. We'll send them out in front as a defensive line. And we'll pull O'Neill's brigade back, because they bore the brunt of it. They did well, though. They scored 2,700 points on their own. They took 700 casualties, but that's not too bad for a brigade of that size. And most of that was from the canister fire when they were trying to crack that Union right flank. And we will pull Colquitt back and let Ramsar take over the front. Have Doles move forward and take up the center. And Iverson is moving into position. And Colston's division is basically getting themselves organized. They're all going to be facing the wrong way because I moved their line back from where they are, so, but that's neither here nor there at this point. And I'm just trying to give him a helping hand. And I will eventually make this house over here on our right, we'll make that Jackson's headquarters. Have him move up and move into that house and have his officers come by. There he is. So yes, we are over 5,000 points, just barely. 5,018 points. And we got about 15 minutes left in the scenario, of which I'm pretty much just going to use to kind of reorganize my lines. It's pretty dark out right now. I have no idea how far away the Yankees are. So we've got Ramser's brigade moving into position at the front on the right, and Iverson moving into position in the front on the left. And I'm just taking Colston's brigades of his division and just kind of setting them up in double line and giving them some semblance of order. And we've intercepted yet another message. So we keep capturing couriers, and I believe every time you capture a courier, it's more points. Or kill a courier. Yes, you can see we've just gained a couple of more points from killing that courier. So we're having Jackson move over by the house there. We'll bring his division commanders up to keep him company, and they can plan what it is they're going to do tomorrow morning. Of course, Jackson won't be around here because after the scenario ends and I'm no longer taking charge of him, he will run himself out in front of the rebel lines, and on his way back, he will be shot by his own men. And mortally wounded, and he will die a few days later. Not a great way to go. At which point, Jeb Stewart, who is Lee's Cavalry Corps commander, will take over command of the 2nd Corps temporarily and carry out the rest of the attack. Which I will say, on May 3rd, he did an admirable job. You know, this is a guy who is a Cavalry Corps commander, and to suddenly be thrust into command of a huge infantry corps is no small task. But Jeb Stewart proved himself capable, and we've intercepted another courier message. Clearly, Carl Schurz has not been informed of the fact that his entire division has basically been pushed off this position. And is it me, or are the graphics in this game just, I don't know, somewhat better or more colorful than in Scourge of War Waterloo? I feel like there's just more detail to the terrain, to the various roads and the fences and the different colored grass and you know, the houses and so forth. I don't know. In some way, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm American and I'm just more used to seeing American terrain. I don't know. I've never been to Europe. I don't know how faithfully reproduced the terrain is. But if it is, then I would say the terrain in Europe seems a little blander than the terrain in rural North America here. You know, even just down to the way the fences are done, you can see kind of, you know, the paint chipping away on them and so forth, and you know that they're old and so forth. I don't know. It just seems to look a little better to me, the graphics in this game than in Scourge of War Waterloo. However, the terrain being more sparse in Scourge of War Waterloo certainly makes it easier to maneuver troops. Obviously, everything is a lot easier to see. So we're going to shift Iverson's brigade over a little bit to the left, just to make room, because we're kind of overlapping Ramser's brigade here on the right. So out of the 5 brigades we had in Rhodes' division, only Iverson and Ramser were pretty much unengaged. So we've intercepted yet another courier from Carl Schurz to his corps commander saying the area is secure. Certainly not this area. He must be talking about an area further towards Chancellorsville. And chances are this was a refrigerator break, and that's why the camera just stopped moving there for a minute or two. Might as well bring some guns up. Put them out in front. I still see some Union supply wagons, so the Union troops cannot be far away. But it's so dark out. And we're still intercepting courier messages. And every time we do, I think we get more points. I'm just trying to link up Iverson and Ramser's lines in some semblance of order, as they're basically going to be our pickets for the night. Because I don't think you can send out skirmishers in this game. Can we send out skirmishers? I don't think so. I don't see any kind of skirmish button on the toolbar. I see a skirmish formation for the unit, but all right. So we're still overlapping Ramser a little bit, but not by much. Here we have O'Neill's brigade. They're set up behind the guns. So 5,030 points now. Again, we get a couple of points every time we take out a courier. So not bad, not bad. So Colston's division was pretty much unengaged. And AP Hill's division was pretty much unengaged. Well, they were totally unengaged. So we pretty much pulled this whole thing off just with Rhodes's division here. And even Rhodes' division, we managed to keep 2 brigades out of action. And I think we were really able to do that because it really paid off keeping my units, keeping my brigades kind of in formation as we worked our way through the woods. It took a little longer, but, you know, by bringing the guns up behind them and being able to emerge from the woods still kind of in an orderly formation, we were able to make our attack hit with a lot more force. And pretty much we were able to get the job done with 3 brigades, and we only used O'Neill, Dole's, and and Colquitt's brigades to get the job done. So it's really getting dark out now. Can't see your beak in front of you here. So 5,050 points. And I think you have to get to something like 5,200 points to get that what if option to happen. I'm not sure what it is, but I think you had to get a higher point total than we're going to get here. We're going to get the major victory because we got to 5,000 points, but I think you had to get like over that to make the significantly over that to make the what if option happen. So I don't think we're going to get that. So we got a 4-gun battery out in front. So we've brought some organization to our troops now. And here's Jackson. We got our 5,050 points. And I'm guessing that's Rhodes over there. Oh, we got another battery facing the wrong way. Bring them up. Put them out over here. So these are some pieces from Colston's division. I'm just setting some artillery pieces out in the front. Yep, there's Rhodes. Doesn't appear to be any Yankees out here. Looks like this position is definitely secure. So we're getting points from somewhere, because now we have 5,065 points. I'm guessing it's from Union troops withdrawing or routing that we just can't see. And there's Colston. Might as well bring him up and join the Senior Corps Command. There we go. Get together, boys. Plan for what's going to happen tomorrow. As I said, we're making this house Jackson's headquarters. And we have AP Hill's division out on the ridge line here. And I guess I'm going to move them forward to bring them up close behind, because they're gonna take over the front and be the first line of attack in the morning. So here they come. As you can see, it's a huge division, just endless amounts of troops moving forward here. Just moving more artillery pieces forward. And obviously this is what I like to do when I have nothing to do. I just like to reorganize my lines and make everything neat and orderly. So 5,063 points. We lost 2 points somehow. Not exactly sure how. I don't hear any engaging going on, but I don't hear anybody shooting. But we're winding down here. And there we go. So there we go, guys. Major victory. 5,063 points. We just just clipped it by 63 points. Yeah, I hope you guys, like I said, this wasn't any kind of tutorial. This is just me having fun playing an older game that I hadn't played in a while. Um, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy watching it. There's a couple of intense moments there as we attack the main federal line once we emerge from the woods. Uh, and we captured our objectives and won the battle. So that's it, fellas. Save the replay. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we'll be back to Scourge of War Waterloo after the holidays. This is just something I was doing for fun and just for entertainment value. And hopefully you guys dig it. All right, until next time, guys, take it easy.